I specialize in post-rehab, linking rehabilitation and performance. So an athlete,
give me layman's terms. If
they've already been through therapy, they've already been released.
I bust my knee, I go through therapy, and then I go to you?
If you're still having problems. And you wouldn't believe how many people still have problems after they've been released.
Bob, you've done this rehab stuff.
Yes, because you have to get back on the field, get back on the playing field. And a lot of times when you're talking about peak performance, and this is peak symmetry, is that you might be less than 100%, but you need to perform like you're 100%. And it sounds like you will get me back to performing like I'm 100% after I've been diminished in injury. Is that correct?
Correct. The reason I'm called the detail shop is because I'm very detailed with what I look at, how I evaluate you. I also specialize. I have a credential as a strength and conditioning coach.
What would you do for, like, Bob tells me he doesn't referee high school anymore because, and this is sad because he was a really good referee because he knows.
No, I wouldn't.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, of course. He has a sterling reputation, but his ankles are bad. Like he broke. What did you break your ankle?
Yeah, subluxation of a right ankle, had it screwed back together, and it's an old school football injury. And I played 3 more years after it, but it's one of those things where you go work out, that thing will inflame, it'll be huge, and my only little therapy is ice bucket. You know, but we know therapy extends past ice bucket. So could you
take a guy like Bob and clean up his ankle so he could referee again?
Without knowing his whole health history, I have very little doubt that I couldn't make him perform better. I don't care how long. Number one, you could take an athlete out of his sport, but you can't take the athleticism out of that body. And so he's already got an innate athleticism that'll respond to what I do really well. I have a subspecialty in foot mechanics, different from a foot fetish. It is foot mechanic specialist.
Yes. But there are places for that. It's just not there. With
correct.
Jennifer
Correct. Love working with the feet, though, and the feet play a huge role in the information that goes from your muscular system to your brain that helps you operate better throughout the whole kinetic chain. So if you have a foot problem, that can create a knee problem, that can create a hip problem, a lower back problem. And you haven't been in the league for a long time, Bob. I do some vestibular work where you maybe subclinically have one of your inner ear canals that's telling you you're walking, but that inner ear canal says, I'm going forward and to the right. I'm going forward and to the right. So your muscles are pulling you the other way because your body wants to be over its center of mass.
So he's like perpetually dizzy, maybe.
No, not even dizzy. You wouldn't even really be aware of it, except your muscular system, your body will tell me.
How does that happen? Is that because of all the impacts that he's had over the years of the NFL?
Yes.
Just a little off kilter, right?
Everybody talks about the CTE, but this is a more fixable problem. Maybe it's some of it's vestibular.
Yeah, a lot of it is subclinical. In other words, you wouldn't show up saying I have vertigo or I get dizzy when I stand up. You wouldn't show up with that, but I have actually neurological exams that I do, and we move your head in different directions and say, did that neurological test get better when you tilted to the right? Hey, look at that. Well, maybe.
That's interesting because we've been talking on this show for a while about, like, CTE, I said, is like kind of like the global warming of head injury. We really don't know what we think we know. And it's interesting that you're saying you can fix stuff in the feet through neurology or, using the brain. And I always thought there's something to that with the CTE. Maybe what we're seeing is something more in the inner ear as opposed to the brain.
Yeah, well, the stuff I studied in grad school was a great mix of exercise science and also neurology or control, how the body works in unison and how it takes, if your brain is the GPS of your body, it has information, little satellites at every joint, in your muscles, in your skin, in the hairs on your skin.
Right. And so
everywhere.
How much of the aches and the pains and all the problems that people have with their limbs and their joints, how much of that is attributed to the physical brain as opposed to the psychological? I know it's all in the same place, but how much of it is psychological and how much of it is neurological?
I'm not a psychologist, so I really can't answer it.
So
are you meaning neurological?
Well, it's a lot of people get back pain, and it's all in their head because they're stressed out and they clinch up.
Well, there
You deal
is
with that.
they call it biopsychosocial aspects to pain syndromes.
And that's outside of the scope of...
That's not something I specialize in, but I am not a respecter of persons. If someone comes to me, or if, like I have athletes who say, you know what, my mom has been to everything in the universe and she's still hurting. Will you look at her? Well, I never know how much I can help somebody until I try. So yeah, I'm going to try because exercise is good for the body. Y'all know that.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And who's in your clientele? Who mainly? Is it mainly athletes or is it just normal people?
It's both. It's everybody.
What's
I would
the-
say probably 65 to 70% athletes,
Current pro or former or both?
or all the way down to high school. My youngest athlete is an 11-year-old elite ice skater.
Wow.
Actually, no, she's 10, 11. I'm not sure. And then my oldest is an 84-year-old who still works and still plays racquetball and cycles. So I guess you call that a master athlete, right?
Yeah,
Very good mix.
Do you get a lot of business from CrossFit people?
I do, yes.
They got to be your number one. If so many people get hurt in that.
Power
Not-
cleans kill you.
Not
Power
necessarily. It is the Olympic lifting, I think, and
Yeah.
the amount of work they do. So the type of training that CrossFit is, I'm happy that they're around because they create this sense of community.
I'm glad you said that because I went back to CrossFit for the first time in a while. And one thing I told the guy, Crazy Pete, was that, hey, Crazy Pete, listen, I'm not keen on those Olympic lifts. I'm not cool on taking a barbell and snatching it over my head at 150 pounds. I'll do some deadlifts. I'm not crazy about those. The back squats, I hate those. They hurt my neck. I mean, so am I right in saying that's not for everybody? You can achieve the same thing by scaling it with different equipment.
You're exactly right. I would say Olympic lifting is very advanced lifting, and it's not for the majority of the population. But yes, you can use all kinds of things, and those are for explosive power, okay?
Right.
Do you need explosive power to get up and, reach for the remote or put your dinner plate on the table
Thanks
or
for
take
saying
your
that, because
dog for a walk?
That's
No.
last time I quit CrossFit is because I said, wait a minute, I'm training to be an NFL player, but I'm not an NFL player. I'm just a suburban 50-year-old guy. And Bob was telling me that he used to do all this. He doesn't do them anymore, right? I mean,
No, I stopped.
you just do hang cleans or something
I
like
do. I
that?
still do hang cleans. I mean, I got good power clean form. I can still do a full squat, a front squat, and all that.
But you were an elite athlete, so it makes sense for you.
But this is with all these elite athletes that I know, especially offensive linemen, bad feet and really stiff hips now. And that's one of the things that I constantly still work on with some old exercises just to make sure my hips stay kind of loose and flexible so I can move around.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've learned over the years, don't break yourself up just to the effective minimum dose. Like you take the effective minimum dose of medicine. Same thing
Right.
for exercise. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Don't get me wrong. I say CrossFit has a great sense of community, and it's getting people moving and active.
That's what I
So
like. I pick
love
and
that.
choose. I pick and choose what I want to do. You know what? I only want to do 2 rounds. I don't want to do 3. It's enough for me.
Well, and it sounds like you have a good coach that's going to let you do that.
Yeah, he does. As crazy as he is, Crazy Pete understands.
So what would be a typical length of time with one of your sessions?
Well, my sessions last at least an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I do have 30, 45-hour sessions. There's times I go longer with an elite athlete. It's kind of fun to work with them a little bit, see what we were able to change, and then go challenge the system. So challenge it with either a sport-related move or by getting them out. If I'm with a basketball player, I'm going to say, hey, go out on the court and do a few moves. Maybe I'll pretend to defend them, if you can imagine that.
Yeah, I'd like to.
6'8".
Be a funny video. It'd be.
It might go viral. Let's put it out. No.
We should do that.
So it might take longer because we do a little back and forth, and it's all about finding the point at which that area of the body wants to learn to move properly again.
With football players, I remember one of the toughest injuries, which was a small one, but we talked about feet, were turf toe. What injury do you find that is just like a tough one to get over, but with the type of therapy you do, you make that transition back to full speed better off for them?
It's honestly, it's when there's been a structural trauma, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We had a torn Achilles last night, right?
Right, that was Eric Berry.
It's a very hard thing to move forward from. It depends on the modality they use to repair it. Is it okay for them to just sew it back together? Do they have to use a cadaver? Do they have to use some kind of tendon transfer? There's all kinds of modalities. They're now using stem cells if it's the right opportunity.
And so if Eric Berry came to you after his surgery, his rehab therapy, then that's where you come in and say, here's how to get it back to 100%.
Or work in conjunction with their strength coaches, because I don't pretend to periodize training. But I love working with strength coaches because they know I understand what they do, but I don't do what they do. I don't really care who an athlete is, but I darn sure care how they are.
All right,
and I would do everything in my power to work with them to see that they get back to as good as they can.
And what about nutrition? Do you talk about nutrition with your clients? Or is that something else?
Very little. So I don't have, there are laws in the state about.
Right. You just go to the root of the problem, the brain, and see how it's all.
The brain, the muscular system. Now, if I see a lot of inflammation in that body, and that would be ways they respond, I might have them talk to a nutritionist or talk to their doctor about maybe they have a gut issue. Maybe they have an unknown food sensitivity that's creating an inflammatory process.
I get that with too much bread. I can't perform. I got IBS. I got IBS at the MBS during the Florida State game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I ate brisket grilled cheese. It was so delicious going in, but it just ruined my day.
Do you know I heard that segment?
You did?
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, I'd eat that without the bread.
You couldn't. You can't peel it off. It's like it's glued shut. I don't know. Anyway,
sealed to the brisket.
We got to break here, but Jennifer, thank you so much for being on the Muscle Detail Shop. It's such a great name. And what's the website?
Well, if you go to muscledetailshop.com, it'll take you to my business page. And you can also email me at muscledetailshop@gmail.com if you want more information.
So if you're all busted up like, Bob Whitfield here, who's, had a lifetime of punishment, Jennifer Novak is the person to see at the Muscle Detail Shop. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a great weekend.
Coming up next, the height of mediocrity.